everybody, Dave here again, and I've got a video for you that's less than normally exciting because we're talking about GDPR maintenance and then maybe user compliance or just maybe a desire to keep a environment or all of your environments clean because maybe you've got a touch of OCD like myself. So, in any event, let's go ahead and look and see what needs to be done in order to maintain these environments by cleaning out users that are no longer with the company or users that do not need to be in environments because of regulatory reasons, again, such as GDPR. So, what we'll do here from the admin center, and I guess let me go one step back with a prerequisite because I know some of you watching this are brand new to the Power Platform and you're not really sure how to navigate everything. So if you're, say, for example, in the make.powerapps.com experience, which you'll get to by clicking on the Power Apps app, like you should land in the default environment, right? So I'm in my lab right now currently because that's where I was last, but typically you'll land off in the default environment. If not, it doesn't matter. I will tell you that if you click the cog, there's a link here to the admin center. So that's how you get to the admin center if you're wondering. So with that being said, then the next thing you'll need to do is come over here to the left sidebar and click on environments. And then from here, you'll get a list of environments. And so in this lab, I do have a couple of environments. If you're in a production environment in a company, you'll probably have thousands, hundreds, depending on the size of your company, or you may just have a handful if you keep a really tight buttoned up ship here. So in any event, all I've got here is a couple of these. I'm going to go into the default environment because this is going to be applicable to everyone or most people. I don't think that you'll have any difficulties with the other environment because the steps I'm about to show you is identical. Just make sure that you go from environments and you go into the right environment. Now, what I am about to show you here does need to be done on each environment, okay? So go into the settings for the environment once you're in it and twirl open this product and click on features. Now, this particular feature to delete users is currently in what's called preview. And the good news is you don't have to go to the preview URL that I show in some of my videos. So for example, make.powerapps.com becomes make.preview.powerapps.com. This feature actually is available in the general availability setting, but the feature is a preview feature and you do have to toggle it on here. I know Microsoft kind of makes that confusing because some places some features you have to go into certain areas to see when they're in preview, and others you can just flip a switch. This is one of these flipping of the switch. So you see that mine is on, okay? So this is the prerequisite step. Okay, now I'm going to come back out here to click in the breadcrumb trail, just back to default. And now up here where it says access, this little box in the upper right-hand corner, the feature that I am showing you here does apply to users, okay? Now this S2S apps, this is where your service principal and your application users go that you create in Azure. Currently, this feature is not available to clean up those areas. It is only available for general users. But I did ask Microsoft, and they did confirm that this feature is coming here shortly. So I didn't get a timeline, so all I can tell you is that eventually one day it'll show up or it'll be available to you for here. But as of right now, it's only available for users. So now I'm going to go ahead and click into users, and you're going to see that in my very small lab, I have myself and some blah, blah, blah user that I created, okay? So this blah, blah, blah user, if I go in and click on it, I've got a couple of items, but I don't have a delete option right now. And the reason for that is because there's a bunch of prerequisite steps or phases of a user that need to happen. There's two phases of a user inside of the Azure Active Directory environment or Office Microsoft 365 area, right? So right now I currently have a Office 365 E3 license and I am an active user. So one of the things that I need to do is I need to, if I click delete user here, okay, what that's going to do is it's going to put the user into a soft deleted state. And so then I'm going to have to wait 30 days for this user to get cleaned out of the system. And then after that, the user's no longer in a soft deleted state. The user's actually fully deleted. Now, if you want to delete users and remove the license all in one fell swoop, you can go over to Azure Active Directory and they have this deleted users preview, which is really handy. You used to be able to do this in PowerShell if you got impatient and didn't want to wait the timeline. But if we come over here to this user and we choose delete user, let's see here. Well, I guess we'll go. Yeah, here we go. We'll click delete user. It says delete the selected user. We'll tell it OK. And now up here it says the user was successfully deleted. And so if I refresh here, the user's still showing up. And if I wait a couple of seconds, it does seem to take a while for the delete mechanism to take a hold. If I come over here to deleted user preview, I still don't have anything here. Okay, there it goes. It's finally showed up over here, which means now if I go back out to all users, I do not have that user over here anymore. Okay, so I am now showing up in a soft deleted state. So this has nothing to do with the Power Platform, guys. This is everything to do with Azure, Azure Active Directory, and how users are, in these areas. So now if I come over here on this side and choose refresh, all of a sudden I'm not here anymore. And now if I come over here to deleted users, I can see that I'm still in the soft deleted state. Now, if you notice from the Microsoft side, I only have a choice to restore the user or export the user, okay? So this is where normally you would have to have gone into PowerShell to delete the user. And this is if you got impatient, but at least now there's a GUI item in Azure Active Directory to where you can come over here to deleted users and you can force or hard delete. Now, I will take special caution by mentioning that if you do this, you need to make it's okay for this user because I just created this for the video. But if this is an actual user, this could be a very stupid move to do. And I know that's some strong language to use, but maybe foolish might be a little bit better to use. But in any event, it could potentially be a really bad problem. So if this user has assets and things that's in Azure Active Directory, all through Microsoft Office 365, including files, Power Apps, presentations, I don't know, stuff stuck in their personal OneDrive, if you do this, you're going to destroy any chance of recovering that. So just know that this is a very, very destructive, and I highly suggest you use this with extreme caution. I'm only showing this for the video. So I'm going to just choose delete permanently because I know there's zero risk to me. And this user was never even really a real user in the first place. So with that said, I just wanted to caution everybody to please be very careful about following through with what I'm showing you here, just because I've actually done stupid things myself, and it's a gut-wrenching feeling to know that, oh my goodness, I was working for a large, prominent law firm one time, and I ran some SQL statements, and unfortunately, I was writing them all in a non-best practice way, and I deleted a bunch of tables, and I had to make sure that I quickly restored service to hundreds of thousands of users. It was not a very good feeling at all. Anyway, I got talking here and I've got myself all spun around. So users, deleted users. Okay, I am now fully deleted. So with that being said, this user is no longer in the system. They no longer have any licenses. However, this is one of the problems when you're dealing with the Microsoft Power Platform. Once they're in like, Flynn. See, now I'm getting this error message, which is a good one. It says it does not exist in Azure Active Directory. And so that's all well, good, and fine. It would really be nice now if we could just delete this user. Now, if I go into this user, you see this right here? It says delete user. Now, let me give you a couple of explanations here. Just like in Azure Active Directory, there's a couple of different states of deletion for these users. If I delete this user here, it's going to put it in a soft delete state. So it's almost like Microsoft duplicated the same functionality that they have in Azure Active Directory with the user exists. And if you delete them, they're not really deleted. They go into a soft delete state. And then after you soft delete them, then you can permanently delete them. Now, the prerequisite is if this user has any objects or assets within the environment, one of the things that you're going to want to do with this user, and this is a requirement here, where you're going to have to reassign the records. And so what I can do is I only have myself. You can reassign the record to yourself or to another user or to a user or team. And then as soon as you do that, then all of the records will be reassigned and you'll be allowed to finally delete the user fully. So just make sure for good measure that you have at least a dummy user, which was going to eat up a license, or some dedicated manager or supervisor of the department or over the entire platform, just so that you don't delete or so you can delete the user, but the assets get reassigned. All right, so with that being said, I've done all of the prerequisite steps. I now should be able to come over here and delete the user. So I'm going to come into here. I'm going to hit delete user. Go ahead and read through all of this. Basically, it's just telling you everything that I said before. And so we're deleting the user. And see, now all of a sudden it says delete permanently. And so I have this new secondary version because right now the user's in the soft deleted state. In order to fully remove them, I have to go through this step twice. And I've already done the prerequisite step of reassigning all of the assets that this user may have had and given it out. All right, so you see now that that user is fully gone. Normally, I would say that's the end of this video, and this is all that you need to know, but there is some extra pieces of information that I think you need to know. And Microsoft does not disclose this in any of their documentation. And speaking of which, let me show you how to get to the documentation on all of this as Microsoft has it. So I'm going to go back into the settings for the environment. And with that being said, of course, it's taking forever and 5 days to load where normally it just works. Okay, so back into the default environment, we're going to go into settings. We're going to twirl open the product area and go into features. We're going to scroll down to where we have to flip this switch. Okay, so if you read through the description here, all the information's there. But if you click on this learn more, this will take you to the link talking about permanently deleting users. And it talks about the prerequisite steps. It mentions this is to comply with GDPR and some other reasons that, maybe you would want to delete all that. So this is how you get to the documentation. It's already linked up in here for that. All right, so some bonus material or some bonus things to understand. I have this user that I created, right? And I never assigned this user to any of the other environments, okay? So I'll just pick on Udemy. So if I go into Udemy, and I go into users, this user doesn't exist. He doesn't have any access at all here, okay? And so I'll just click out into environments, and I'm going to go into a very specific environment. And this may happen to you. And if this does happen to you, at least I want you to be aware of how it happened or why it happened. And if you're Microsoft, then maybe take note of this and bring it up to the product team because this seems kind of weird or unusual behavior, at least to me anyway. I'm not really sure why it happens the way that it happens. Well, actually, I know how it happens. I'm just not sure why it happens the way it does. All right, so users, same thing. See this user? This user that I created? I'm going to select it and I'm going to go over here to manage security roles because this user has absolutely zero security roles. As an administrator, I did nothing to add this user to this environment. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that this user was in this environment. I just so happened to take observation of something when I was setting this up. And I'll tell you how this all came to be. So I don't know if this is a bug, but just want to make you aware that this is it, especially if you're trying to comply with GDPR. So when I created this user and I logged into the make.powerapps.com experience, my browser had a bunch of cache, I guess, set up with environments. And so the very first time that I logged into the make.powerapps.com experience, so for example, I'll just click on this and let's see luck of the draw where I am. And I know this has to do with browser cache, so this is probably only applicable to brand new users that may be using a browser that has cached information. So the chances of this happening are very slim. But I do want to let you know that this is a possibility, especially if you're an administrator and maybe you tried to log in on behalf of that user to maybe test the user account. I don't know what the scenario would be, but just know that, if you're using Power Apps specifically to make .powerapps.com experience and you've log out, say sign out, like right now I'm in as me, but if I sign out and then sign in as another user, I may or may not go to the default environment, which is something that they should be doing, but they don't. So I don't know how that programmatically they would control this, but in any event, they're more than likely going to drop themselves into the lab 001 if I log in as another user. Now, this is the secret to the sauce. The act of me logging in as another user that does not have access to an environment explicitly automatically enrolls that user in that environment. In other words, there will be an entry here that will show up, but the user has absolutely zero access because they don't have any role assigned. But nonetheless, the user is here and being listed. So if you're trying to, I don't know, go into GDPR compliance, this may or may not get you into trouble with that compliance. So, unfortunately, there is a way of doing this, maybe with Power Automate, to sift through all of the environments to see if there's an entry listed for that user, if they exist in the, into the users table. So, if you're really geeky and you know a lot about the Power Platform, you'll know that inside of Dataverse and tables, if you come over here to all tables. One of the tables in here is going to be this AD user as well as another user table and stuff that's in there. So this entry for this user that just magically showed up with no role is going to be listed in one of these tables. And to be honest with you, I don't remember which one it is off the top of my head. Let's see, what was it? ISV Lab. Maybe we can plunder around through this here. So if I'm not mistaken, the AAD user, if I remember correctly, this has to do with all of the users potentially in Azure Active Directory. And so there's just that user here. Let's go to Active Tables. Let's go to all. And I'm assuming, let me just use you. Let's see, here's user. This might be the table. Okay, so these look like the application users, additional 95 rows. Let's expand this out. And then, yeah, all these are pound symboled users. These are regular users, system users. Here it is. Okay, so that's it. So it is the users table. Okay, so there is an entry here for the user that showed up in this table. Again, there's no role assigned to this user, but they did show up. So a couple different ways you can automate through this to look for the existence of a user that you're trying to delete or clean out, or find out if they're in any of the environments by doing some of this extra iterative type of work. But again, so Microsoft, if you are listening, just know that there is a lot of possibility that this could wind up happening, and it will be an issue for those companies that are trying to be GDPR compliant. And for you companies, I just want to let you guys know that if you are worried about GDPR compliance, if you wind up, having this regulatory issue, how did this happen? This is a weird circumstance. So I don't know. In any event, just be aware that it's there and deal with it accordingly. I've hopefully given you enough information here about how it happens, how to clean it up, and specifically where you would go to look for these type of weird anomalies that happen on the platform. So with that being said, that is it for this video. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.